This video is an overdue film study look at Terrion Arnold's performance in the Detroit Lions' 31-9 victory over the Vikings in Week 18, securing the top seed for Detroit throughout the NFC playoffs. I think it was Aaron Glenn's defense, their most complete performance. If you were to take out the 58-yard or 56-yard run by Cam Akers, you have a total domination from an offensive yards production for the Vikings and a yards per play standpoint. As it stands, they still only were able to generate 4.2 yards per play, second lowest offensive yardage output in 2024, and the first time, in fact, that the Minnesota Vikings offense was held to single digits. Terrion Arnold was a big part of it. I think he's a lot cleaner in terms of his coverage in the last 5, 6, 7 weeks. There was a film study video that I did maybe around week 6 or 7 where I proposed that I thought he was a different style corner than CD3, even though they were both playing in the same system. Aaron Glenn's defense obviously relies on a lot of man-to-man coverage. We saw that bear out on Sunday night, really overwhelming Sam Darnold, Justin Jefferson, TJ Hockenson, and Jordan Addison, respectively. I'm going to make a comparison between Arnold, CD3, and Amik Robertson, and I like to do so with number lines, which sounds very nerdy. I am actually a math person, a certified math teacher, so that's part of the reason why I rely on that. We're going to take CD3 and we're going to push him all the way to the right on an imaginary number line. Why? Because in his version of press man coverage, he's physical. He likes to make first contact. He likes to make contact with the receiver and disrupt them at the line of scrimmage or within the first yard of the release once the ball has been snapped. Over on the other end, all the way to the left of our theoretical number line, is Terrion Arnold. Now, earlier in the year, he was trying to adapt to that strategy. He was trying to recreate it, and I offered the theory, and it's okay with me if you disagree with it. Feel free to let me know in the comment section that was not the best case, the best usage for his skills, the way that he was playing earlier in the season. I think he actually ended up putting himself in disadvantageous positions because he was trying to play the same style as CD3. Somewhere in there, it's my opinion, that he started to just play press man, but not have to make contact, not be so heavy trying to make contact with the receiver, and in fact, at times make himself either A, off balance, or open up a receiver to beat him to the outside or an underneath or inside release. In between those two on this theoretical number line would be Amik Robertson. I think he's a little bit of CD3, a little bit of Terrion Arnold. He can vacillate between those two styles a little bit more cleanly than Terrion Arnold can, particularly as we move further to the right if you're Amik Robertson. He's better at punching just off the line of scrimmage, and I think Amon-Ra St. Brown in his podcast even kind of admitted to that it's been a problem in practice before. We're going to get to the film here. I've got 14 plays. I think Terrion Arnold has played extremely well, especially recently. You're welcome to let me know what you think of that in the comment section. We're going to focus on him during this film study video. This is the first third down of the game, first possession of the game. In fact, he's going to be on Addison underneath, running across the middle of the field. It's a target of TJ Hockenson against Alex Anzalone. Yes, he's open. Sam Darnold, misses this. There is actually contact on Sam Darnold, but what I want to talk about here is the long speed of Arnold and his ability to dip under here, essentially on this mesh concept. And you can see as Darnold is throwing, there is a defender right at him. Oftentimes the pressure, the pass rush arrived just in time to impact or cause Sam Darnold to be a little bit more off target than he would have been if he had a clean pocket. You'll see a couple of examples of a clean pocket here in this video. First example that I wanted to use here, just showing his long speed running across the field with Jordan Addison, obviously an extremely talented receiver. Moving to the second quarter here, this is 2nd and 10. This is going to be a deep pass to Addison. Again, I think it just illustrates the long speed that he's got. Clearly, we're talking about off coverage here, turning his hips, a man turn, and then baseball turning it back the other way. So man turn, if you're unfamiliar with what I'm talking about, is a turn where your chest, your eyes, your face mask end up facing the sideline. You're essentially turning, if you're the right outside corner, clockwise to then match the vertical by the receiver. If it's a zone turn, you'd be turning inside counterclockwise. So your chest, your face mask, your eyes would at some point be opening to the quarterback. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. What interests me is the smoothness with which he makes this transition here. He doesn't have safety help. Brian Branch is handling the sail concept by number 2 here. And so Terrion Arnold is turning and going and just matching the vertical by Jordan Addison. Darnold goes up top. There's a little bit of a window there. I feel like Terrion Arnold did a pretty good job of matching that, especially early on, not letting them, the Vikings, realize or not letting them capitalize on the man-to-man coverage tendency that Aaron Glenn had shown prior to the game, and that he clearly showed almost overcompensated during the game. There's an end zone angle view of it. Looks a little bit more open from the end zone angle view than maybe the All-22. Addison, Hawkinson, and Justin Jefferson, well, Sam Darnold as well, extremely inefficient, which doesn't line up with what they've been able to produce throughout their 9-game win streak. Now they got to go on the road and play the Rams, and perhaps the Lions are going to see them 2 weeks from now, or maybe even 3. This is that same possession in the second quarter, ends up being a 4th and 3. The stop doesn't occur at Terrion Arnold here. He's actually gets lost initially by this stacked twins release. And so what I'm talking about is everything that happens up here. He kind of collides with Branch. In fact, you'll see their feet kind of cross over, and that's what makes Addison so open. And Sam Darnold's looking here. I guess, obviously, he doesn't know in live time that these guys have tripped over their own feet, so he's moving through his reads quickly. I think the pressure, I think the willingness to bring so much heat at him definitely had an impact on Darnold that was cumulative, meaning by the second quarter, middle second quarter, and especially in the third quarter, it had really gotten to him, the pressure, sped up his decision-making, sped up his processing in a manner that really clearly illustrated he doesn't specialize in getting the ball out quick like some of the other quarterbacks that the Lions have faced this year, meaning Matthew Stafford and Baker Mayfield. Those are the two guys that I think would obviously be the biggest get the ball out right now type of players that the Lions have faced, and lo and behold, they're also the guys that they struggled with. Geno Smith kind of falling into that category as well at times. This is a 2nd and goal after Goff's first interception. Arnold's going to be matched up against Jordan Addison like most of the game. And I think there's about 6 times where you can see this dynamic play out, whether it's Terrion Arnold, Amik Robertson, or even Brian Branch. Essentially, they take outside leverage. It almost seems as if they know that the route has got to be pushed back out to the sideline. I think these guys were extremely prepared. This is, in case you don't know, is like I said, after Goff's first interception, Amik Robertson almost gets the return interception to get the ball back for Detroit. Watch him take outside leverage on Addison and essentially refuse to allow Addison to get back to the outside. I don't think he should be forced to. If he's already got outside leverage, it's the receiver's job, in my opinion, to try to win to that side. Detroit's DBs, for whatever reason, seem to be extremely prepared in dealing with some of these out-breaking routes or in-breaking routes, in fact. They seem to have a great clue or tell in terms of the patterns of what type of release, whether it was the formation, whether it was the alignment, the situation. Those guys were extremely prepared for each of those moments. Fast forward through some of the motion here, and this is one of the looks that one of the coverage looks the Lions have used often. Now we'll let this flow through one time through. You can see that obviously this could be a touchdown to Justin Jefferson in the back of the end zone, running away from Amik Robertson. Why does this occur? Well, you've got 2 in-breaking routes. Terrion Arnold is releasing his route. I think it's Powell underneath. So he's got outside leverage, and he's allowing this route to be passed off to someone underneath. In this case, Kirby Joseph ends up taking it. Additional to that, you have the deeper over concept from the opposite side, and then Justin Jefferson running the back of the end zone, which is where Sam Darnold chooses to target. As a result of all of that happening, Kirby Joseph is kind of pulled forward to deal with the underneath concept that Terrion Arnold released. And now Arnold's going to help lock up this guy. It's just a great job, if you ask me, a great play concept, I should say, by the Vikings. If they knew that this type of coverage was a tendency for Aaron Glenn and the Lions down inside the red zone, the middle red zone that is, they've now basically carved out Arnold, Branch, and Joseph to get them out of the way and create a lot of space, a lot of room for Justin Jefferson to run onto. Unfortunately for the Vikings, Sam Darnold was not able to be accurate as pressure was at him and or oncoming, and in this case it ends up being overthrown. Missed opportunity for the Vikings. I thought that the Lions played with incredible aggression. I've covered that in the other 2 defensive videos that I've done this week, but also those guys were brilliant in either playing their man coverage or what I would call their pass off or release guys inside and then pick up crossers from the opposite direction. Second and goal here. He's down at the bottom side of the screen. Definitely very grabby. Amik is playing the blitz here, okay? So Amik is the ball's already out. You can see the football right there. Amik is playing the slant, and Jefferson turns it into a slant fade, if you will. Down here, you could see Terrion Arnold, really physical with number 83, who made 2 big catches in the game. He seemed to be on the right leverage side with so many of these routes that it almost seems like these guys were prepared for multiple weeks. I mean, they're division opponents, so there's some familiarity. I get it. I think I had that one mistakenly labeled. That was actually a third down, and the Vikings had to settle for a field goal to get within 7-3 in the second quarter. Moving forward to the third quarter here, this is where this is, I think, an example of what I was talking about earlier on in the lead-in, where I compared CD3, Amik, and Terrion Arnold on a number line from right to left, with Arnold being all the way to the left, Amik being in the middle, and CD3 being all the way to the right. He's better between the 30s now, in my opinion. Let me move this screen down so you guys can see it. This is an overthrow. This is, a miscommunication between Darnold and Jordan Addison. Let me move this down a little bit for you guys, so you can catch a little bit more of Terrion Arnold at the top of the screen. It seems to me, and I can't prove this, that he's been less touchy at the line of scrimmage, meaning content and comfortable to allow the receiver to get a release and then turn and run as needed. And even though this ball was thrown well over their head, Terrion Arnold's still in a position where he could break down and try to make a play on the ball if it was, in fact, thrown back towards the sticks. Trying to use this play to illustrate to you that he doesn't have to be as physical and grabby as some of these other guys. Even though in the previous play down in the end zone he was, I think his play between the 30s has been a little bit cleaner and a little bit more efficient in that regard, meaning he's less reliant on getting hands on the receivers, more comfortable just turning and running, especially from a press man alignment. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. Third down here, brilliant play by Meek Robertson, kind of gets ruined by a penalty called on Branch. I'm not a huge fan of the penalty, to be honest with you, but we're focusing on Terrion Arnold at the top of the screen. He looks like a Meek up there with multiple punches that are recurring one after the other. And those aren't grabs to me. Now, I did see him get a little bit off balance here after the second one. 1, 2, and then trying to turn and run. Amik with a brilliant play down here at the bottom side of the screen, just fighting, refusing to concede any ground to Justin Jefferson. You get a penalty called on Brian Branch. I just think Branch has outside leverage and is refusing to allow the receiver to get back to his outside breaking route. I don't think that DBs should have to give ground to receivers when they've already got a leverage side. Essentially, it kind of to me, I would compare it to a charge in basketball. I'm entitled to my space. I'm entitled to run in this direction. If you're not capable of either beating me with speed to get to outside leverage or stopping your feet and then going underneath, which means changing the route structure, obviously, which is why that would not occur, I don't think that we should be rewarding offenses with soft-ass penalties like that. That's just my opinion, but I'm also a defensive-minded guy. In any case, it gives the Vikings a first down that was not called on Meek Robertson. It was called on Branch. Same possession here. And you're going to get a deep over concept. This is Terrion Arnold at the bottom side of the screen against Jordan Addison. Watch the stack release here, how they do this. Powell, the inside receiver, steps to Branch. I think that the Vikings believe Branch is going to guard Addison. So he steps to Branch, and then Addison releases inside. So already there is space here that's been created by the off alignment from Terrion Arnold, and now he's got to go. He's got to try to get to fifth gear as much as possible, but brilliant team defense, if you ask me. It is a clean throwing platform for Sam Darnold, but Melifonwu recognizes there's an under-over concept, and he's going to fit in between those two, but err on the high side, meaning underneath of the over route. Perhaps I need to find some other phrases to use to describe that. Terrion Arnold's lagging a little bit behind. Naturally, it makes sense that he would be so because he's given up space initially by alignment. Fortunately, the Lions did a great job, if you ask me, of playing team defense in some of those tough cover situations like that one. Third quarter here, we got a 2nd and goal while the Lions are still holding on to that 10-6 lead. And you can see down here at the bottom side of the screen, Terrion Arnold and Amik Robertson are trying to figure out who's going to get up and press. This is the brilliant play by Amik Robertson. So on the play, he hung around, meaning he stayed on this side of the field. And when the running back came back out into the flats to this side, Nowaski's drop is a little too deep. Thankfully, Amik Robertson was still there, because if he was not, this is going to be a touchdown to Aaron Jones. At the time, though, check out Arnold all over. I think it's Addison. Let me pull this over so you guys can see it. My apologies. I like to zoom in a little bit, but there you go. So back here on the top left part of the screen, I'll let you see the release. Again, outside leverage on Addison because he knows that the route is coming back to the outside, which is the left-hand portion of our screen. First hit and an attempted punch, forced fumble by Amik Robertson, and then Jack Campbell, the second hitter. Just a nice example of team defense, if you ask me. This 4th and goal from the third quarter encapsulates or illustrates what this Detroit Lions defense is about. So he's on Jordan Addison. It's great coverage after the play develops. And so what I mean is, initially there is clearly an opportunity for Sam Darnold to get the football to Addison underneath this pick concept to trips. There is no quit in anybody on this Lions defense, certainly not Terrion Arnold. I don't think Aaron Glenn would tolerate anything like that. But remember earlier on in the video I talked about Darnold, there was no way he could know that Branch and Arnold's feet had kind of got hung up together, and so he moved off that read quickly. Now look at the reaction from Terrion Arnold. He's going over the top to ensure that that doesn't happen. The only thing that I can think is that Sam Darnold, as he's looked in this direction, because there's certainly an area to throw the football to Addison here, or even underneath low to protect him from Kirby Joseph potentially getting there. He's far to the left, if you ask me, and then Terrion Arnold trying to get over the top. That's the only thing that I can think as to why Sam Darnold doesn't choose to throw that football there. It's a 4th and goal, tries to develop something later on. Terrion Arnold there. It's really the highlight of the game from a Terrion Arnold perspective, because along with Amik Robertson's play 2 snaps earlier, it's a play that keeps them out of the end zone and preserves the score as it is. I think, like I said earlier, I think it kind of illustrates the type of defense that the Detroit Lions want to play and what the coaching staff and the fan base as well expect from their players. Unfortunately, in the third quarter, he did get hurt. I'm not going to show the entirety of this play. I just don't really like showing injuries by players, but there is something good to show here. He's got T.J. Hockenson releasing out to him and then just sheds him almost immediately. It's still a big gain, don't get me wrong, for Aaron Jones to the tight end side, in fact, down into the boundary. But Arnold is able to shed Hockenson pretty quickly and then get involved in the play, get involved in the tackle, I should say. I think it's a teammate who comes in here late. Muhammad ends up making contact with him, and that's where the injury occurs, if I'm able to interpret it correctly. I still think that he's going to be able to play. I recognize there's been reports come out that the projection doesn't sound good. I listened to the guy's conversation with the media after the game. I know he was in a walking boot, but regardless of whether he's there or not, Aaron Glenn's not going to change. He's not going to all of a sudden become a zone guy. It certainly, cuts down on what they're capable of, but who would have guessed they were capable of this? With Kendall Vildor on the field and Amik Robertson on the other side, it's quite obvious where all the targets are going to go. It's very reminiscent of the dynamic that the Ravens are dealing with right now, with Brandon Stevens and Nate Wiggins as outside corners and Marlon Humphrey as a slot DB, which is really where Amik Robertson should be if all things are equal and everyone is healthy. But in any case, I don't think they're going to change their style of defense. And here's an example of that. It's later in the game. Obviously, they're up 24-9. And Aaron Glenn's bringing heat. He's bringing pressure. How come you can do this? Well, I covered it a little bit in the Alex Anzalone video. You spent so much time with Anzalone on the tight end. That's actually not what's happening here. It's Melifonwu on him. But when you have Melifonwu and Branch, guys who can cover, and then also Alex Anzalone, that affords you the opportunity to be a little bit hyper aggressive, if you will, with your coverage choices, with bringing a little bit more heat than perhaps people would expect, given the coverage options that you have back there behind you. Really, it's Aaron Glenn and Dan Campbell's decision to bring pressure and force those guys to cover a less amount of time, a smaller amount of time, excuse me, as opposed to giving the quarterback a shit ton of time to sit back there and diagnose and throw, and those guys being asked to cover for 3.4 or 3.6 seconds, which is just difficult for damn near any DB to do. In any case, this is my film study look at Terrion Arnold's performance in Week 18. As I kind of explained earlier, I think he's cleaned up some things, but I also believe that the coaching staff has tailored their expectations for how he would play a technique in a different manner than CD3 on the opposite side. Of course, neither one of those guys finished the game against the Vikings. CD3 is apparently going to be out for the year, which is an extremely disappointing development. I was holding out hope that he'd be ready for like the NFC Championship game or even the divisional round. The absolute warrior, I hope his time with the Lions extends beyond 2024 because I think his play warranted it. Guy played with his heart on his sleeve. I think Terrion Arnold, Meek Robertson, Brian Branch, all of those guys on defense represented themselves in the same manner in their Week 18 win against the Vikings. Appreciate you guys' time, man. If you think other Lions fans would enjoy this film study look at Terrion Arnold's performance in Week 18, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.